Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Obbythrow. How do I, 28 female, get my boyfriend, 29 male, to understand that I don't want to be her, 26 female, friend? My boyfriend Lee and I have been together for 2 years. We've been living together for 1. Before we moved in together, he was living with a friend from work, Kim. At the very beginning of our relationship, 1 to 2 months in, I was approached by a lot of his co-workers telling me that Lee and Kim used to hook up a lot. That of course made me feel uncomfortable, and instead of being an adult and talking about it with him, I got drunk one night and had a breakdown. Not my finest moment, and I've apologized to both him and Kim for my behavior. Lee assured me nothing ever happened between them and that it was just workplace gossip. I completely believe him, and even if he did sleep with her, it's in the past and he's completely committed to me. After we moved in together, his contact with Kim dwindled to just the workplace and occasional get-together with mutual friends. Unfortunately, Kim was not so forgiving about my little immature moment. Even though I didn't have the breakdown in public or around Kim, she knows because Lee did tell her about it for some reason. I wasn't too happy about that, but I made it a point to try and take Kim out to lunch and drinks and apologize. I thought all was well, but apparently it's not. Over the last 2 years, Kim has been nothing but awful to me. If we're all out to dinner, she ignores me. She rolls her eyes if I start speaking and will cut in front of me as I'm speaking to people like I'm not even there. Whatever, I get it. I tried to be nice, but I'm not her biggest fan either. But what has really set me off is the fact that Kim is above Lee in management and is in charge of expansion. She has approached Lee multiple times about going to open a new branch of the company in a city that is a 3-hour flight from where we live. Now, opening a new branch for this company requires the person to live in that new city for at least 2 years, and she has put Lee's name in the running even though he has told her straight up he does not want to go. I am effing livid, and surprisingly, he is too. But he doesn't see it as a slight towards me, just that she'd like someone experienced to open the new branch, and he's the most experienced in the company to do it, so it could be that. But I don't know, I feel like there's another motive as well. After all of this, Lee still wants me to try and be friends with her. I have told them that a friendship between us just isn't in the mix. I've tried everything to get her to like me, throw her surprise birthday parties, move her into a new apartment while she went back to her home state for an emergency, and even got her a tour of her favorite distillery, all to no avail. I'm done trying. I have told them that I, in no way, want him to stop his friendship with her, but I would rather he not talk about our relationship with her and that I'd rather not be in a room with her or have dinner with her unless there isn't a sizable crowd where I can pretend she's not there. I can deal with her at a birthday or holiday events, but besides that, I really don't want to be around her. He's obviously hurt that we can't seem to get along, and he keeps trying to push me to be her friend. Apparently, he still thinks that she needs more time to get to know me and see how sorry I was about a mistake I made 2 years ago that I've tried so hard to correct. So my question is, how do I get Lee to understand that Kim and I will never be friends and that I really just don't want to be around her if I can manage it? Well, OP, I don't think your boyfriend is able to see that because apparently he doesn't really understand what's going on. You said in your last paragraph that he's hurt that you two can't seem to get along. Now, I wonder if those are his words because you guys don't get along not because of you. You've done everything you can to get along. So the logical answer to the question of why can't you two seem to get along is, well, Kim doesn't want to. He should be able to see that. And to close this point, OP, I think you should just stop trying to be her friend. She doesn't want to, don't waste your energy. Also, OP, you've been dating your boyfriend for 2 years. How much more time does he think Kim needs to get to know you, and why is that so important? Introducing to people hoping they hit it off is fine, But then pushing a relationship? No, that's not cool. But I think what bugged me the most is that Kim wasn't there. She shouldn't have needed to know. I mean, it's not something that would hurt any kind of relationship between him and her or anything like that. It could only damage your image, and I'm a firm believer that that kind of stuff needs to stay within the relationship and be solved within the relationship. What I mean by this is it isn't a situation where one of the two partners needed to call the authorities or anything like that. It was something that they just could have talked through and OP could have saved face. So OP, I'm not saying you need to dump this guy, but he needs to get his head in the game, so try to help him with that, because he does sound a tiny bit clueless. And what do you guys think about this whole situation, or what would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Fingerringer says, "What the F, girl? This doesn't make any sense. Why would she be this upset over a BS thing that happened years ago that had no lasting effect on any relationship? Something is fishy here, and it's definitely not on your end. You have nothing more to do to get on her good side. You've done more than enough. Throwing her surprise parties? Like, wow, very nice of you to do for someone who is barely a friend, lol. Like, she's just a rude person if she's still acting like this. Is it possible that maybe she actually does have feelings for him and he's just in denial about it? Why doesn't your boyfriend talk to Kim about any of this and have her also try to open up? Has she done anything close to what you've done to try and be friendly? Seems to me like this is no longer your problem, and it also seems like Kim isn't very interested in being friends either. I say if your boyfriend cares so much, then he should talk to her about it, or he needs to just accept that you guys aren't going to be friends and let it go. Although, honestly, it's kinda effed up for her to be openly rude when you've been so nice. At the bare minimum, he should talk to her about being at least polite to you, because it does not at all seem like you deserve her attitude. Sharks Aren't So Bad says, "She's pissed off because she lost her F-buddy, whom I strongly believe she has feelings for, and she's trying to sabotage your relationship to get him back. She's treating you like crap to try and assert herself as being more important than you. If your boyfriend doesn't defend you against the type of behavior she is displaying and expects you to just deal with it and play nice when you talk to him about it, then honestly, she is more important than you. And he wants you to be friends with her because then he doesn't have to deal with the drama and possibly pissing off his superior at work. You don't just have a Kim problem, you have a Lee problem, and I firmly believe that if you two ever end your relationship or decide to take a break, he'll end up effing her the second he gets a chance." Deleted says, "Wow, okay, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, your boyfriend should never have told her about your breakdown. That was effed up and makes me believe something more was going on between them. Secondly, that advice that I wish I could shout out at almost every single person who posts in this sub, grow a backbone. Seriously, why on earth would you ever do so much to make up for your breakdown? She should have never known about that, but you even more so didn't confront her, so you have nothing to apologize for or feel sorry about. She sounds like a total effing nightmare, and you totally caved by doing all that stuff for her. She knows how much you wanted her to like you, and she's the type of person who probably gets off on watching that happen, knowing damn well she's going to continue acting like a massive bitch. Now, your bigger issue here is your boyfriend. He seems like a real gem. Sarcasm. I'm sure you love him. He's the best whatever. Stick up for yourself and let it be known that you will not be doing a damn thing for this woman and that you cannot for your life understand why he would want to be friends with someone who treats his girlfriend so awfully. Frankly, they were probably effing and now she's his boss. He doesn't want you to know, and he also wants to keep his job. If he's not willing to tell you the truth, back off from a friendship and acknowledge your feelings. He is not the one for you. People who love you don't act like this. Do right by yourself and demand some respect. Alright, wow, the community really had a lot to say to OP and a lot of different angles, all having something to bring to the table. And I would like to add something to my original commentary, that I do think it's effed up that the boyfriend hasn't ever stood up for OP. Whenever Kim has been rude to OP, the boyfriend should have called to her attention to stop. Anyways, we have no responses from OP, which means we move on straight to the update to see how this story ends. But before that, of course, you know that here's another one of my playlists for you to enjoy after this video. Now let's move on with that update. I appreciate the time people took to reply and give their advice, as well as the people who DM'd me and really helped me figure out the situation. So to start off, I talked to Lee to really get down to whether or not he did sleep with Kim. He swore again that it never happened and he would have no reason to hide it if it did. I asked him if maybe Kim had a thing for him that he didn't know about, and he thought about it and figured it could be true. I told him again why I didn't want to be her friend and how I didn't like the way she treated me. He wasn't aware of how bad it was, so I asked him to make a conscious effort to try and be more aware when we're hanging out together. He's very aloof about a lot of things, which makes me glad I made the first move in the relationship. So a week goes by and a couple of his buddies from work want to go out to dinner. We agree, and when we show up, Kim is there. She hugs Lee but then ignores me. I thought Lee missed it until he looked at me and gave me a raised eyebrow. Dinner goes on and Kim is doing her usual thing of ignoring me, rolling her eyes when I talk, or just rudely interrupting me. When she went to the bathroom, Lee turned to me and said, "I definitely see it and I am so sorry." That was really nice to hear. As dinner was winding down, one of Lee's co-workers gets up to make a toast. He goes on and on about Lee being such a hard worker and how they're going to miss him when he moves to the new branch. I was shocked, so I just said, "What?" without realizing I said it out loud. Lee was just as shocked and told them that he hadn't taken the job and he didn't want the job. That's when Kim said that he was one of the top 3 picked to go down. Lee was pissed. He got up to go get another drink and I went with him. When he found out that Kim put his name in the running, he went to get the higher-ups and told them it was a mistake and that he was not interested. This only means Kim must have found out and talked the bosses into putting his name back in the running. We ended up leaving early and going home. I told him I'd support him if he wanted to go, but he is very much against going. He now sees why I didn't want to be friends with her and why my assumptions about her were completely true. He went back to work on Monday and asked to be moved away to a new department that's not under Kim. He went to HR about Kim overstepping her boundaries, and he's even thinking about finding a new job where he doesn't have to interact with her. Extended from OP's comments, they actually started at the company together and they became friends as co-workers, then roommates, and then she started going out for promotions, so that's how she got to be his boss. She's not that high above him, but he's in her department. He's planning on switching departments hopefully soon. In any case, he's already gone to HR to tell them about what happened and they've documented it. He's not in trouble. She is a nightmare. I'm pretty sure she's got a thing for Lee and is just taking it out on me, but I'm so glad he's finally seeing it. And just to clarify, he did ask me if I wanted him to say something to her if he noticed something, and I said not to, because I wanted him to see the full effect of how it is to be around her and how often she does it in just one situation. I'm so glad he finally saw what I saw and he's completely done with Kim. There were some people saying that he was going to leave me for Kim, or that they were hooking up behind my back, or that he'd leave me for her. It was very nice, but the truth is that he's just a very trusting person, and when I confronted him about telling Kim about my breakdown years ago, he told me she was the one person he usually went to when he didn't know what to do. So he was getting advice. He didn't see how inappropriate it was because she was the subject of the breakdown, but after talking about it, he realized it, and he hasn't done anything like that since. This definitely did feel like something out of a high school drama. I'm just so glad it's over with, and I'm excited to see how losing her will help improve our relationship in the future. He also promises to be more aware of how his friends treat me and to respect my wishes and not force a friendship on me if I don't want it. And yes, I did offer to go with him if he didn't have another choice because he seemed upset that he might have to go. I told him I'd be okay with it and I'm sure we'd work something out. I could try to find a job in that area after a year and maybe move down with him. I was just being supportive, but none of that matters anymore because he's not going. Anyways, he's definitely a keeper. I know we're going to make it in the long run. Alright OP, I'm gonna call this a happy update because frankly, Kim is out of both of your lives, which is always a positive thing apparently, because Kim kinda sucks. Or at least she did to you. So here's wishing you and your boyfriend the best in the future and that your relationship only grows stronger. Thank you so much for sharing OP and take care. Now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user Alexan23. My 17 female manager had me leave the new girl waiting tables on her own, so I took her at her word. 17 female, I'm a waitress server cashier at a semi-local Italian chain. I recently had to take a month off of work for health reasons since I was in the emergency room and then had to spend time in inpatient. While I was away, there were huge changes at my job, including new managers and 2 new employees. I've only been working there for about 6 months, but I picked things up pretty quickly. Barring the first day I had to deal with a packed dining room by myself while still in training, I'd messed up pretty badly with the computer system and needed the manager's help. Still, it happens. Yesterday I met a new girl for the first time. It was her 3rd day, still in training. She's my age and a complete sweetheart. And as the dining room slowly became more and more packed, we made a great team. She got to practice working the computers and talking to customers while I took down the orders and showed her how everything worked. It was her first time properly serving there and she really did great considering that, certainly at first. The other 2 people who were working were a manager and 1 other hourly employee. The managers at my job will also serve and work the counters. I was running between the dining room and the counters to try to keep up, although we can only serve maximum 2 people at the counters, picking up or placing orders at a time. It was to the point where my manager and her friend had bundled up and complained about how cold it was, while I was flushed with my coat off, covered in sweat. Cleaning myself up when dealing with the food, of course. The manager and her friend were sitting down together, alternating between scrolling on their phones and talking, only getting up to answer the phones when they'd already rung 5+ times and having people wait at the counters to be helped for 10+ minutes. It was massively irritating, but I didn't have the time or energy to confront them. Well, about halfway through my shift, my manager told me that I just can't go in between the dining room and the counter, and if I didn't pick one or the other, she'd withhold my tips for both, since I wasn't fully invested in either. Ouch. She gave me a choice on paper, but in reality made it perfectly clear that I was stuck behind the counter, and the new girl, the trainee, was on her own. There was nothing I could really do, so I just stayed at the counter, though that was plenty slammed in and of itself, and I really could have used my 2 co-workers who were screwing around on their phones. I didn't have time to answer phone calls, pack up orders, check people out, and take to-go orders all at once, and I had one particularly angry woman call me a lazy bitch for leaving her on hold for about 2 minutes. While I was doing all of this, the new girl was stuck with a packed dining room and no help. About 20 minutes into it, my manager approaches me looking angry and sheepish. Basically, the trainee had messed up and charged the orders to the wrong cards and needed help, though the way she phrased it was, "You know, you don't have to stay by the counter the whole time, that's not what I meant." I looked over and could see her friend on her phone still, and the manager herself had AirPods on and a show playing on her phone screen. I responded in my sweetest, most respectful voice, "I'm sorry, but as we only get paid $10 an hour, my tips are too vital for me to forfeit them, so I'm going to stay put." She was floored, and instead of helping either of us herself, she waddled back to her seat and resumed her show. Of course, I ended up checking with the trainee and asked if she needed my help and if the mistake was sorted out. She said that she had things back under control and a lot of the people dining in were headed out, which was great because the counter was still slammed. The kicker? This morning, apparently a customer called in and complained that the blonde girl, me, and the girl with braids, the trainee, were so busy that they were sweating, while the 2 other women, manager and her buddy, were sitting on their phones. I only wish I saw her face when she heard about the complaint. OP's edit. To clarify, I'm 17 and my manager is middle-aged. English isn't my first language and I was raised largely by my Ukrainian grandmother. I've been looking into ways to try and get things sorted out and I'm still trying to figure out the best way to report it as I've been applying for other jobs but haven't heard back and I can't afford to be fired in retaliation. I've been put in touch with social programs and assistants, but they all take a really long time to hear back from. Some folks suggested starting a GoFundMe so I could afford to quit my job and still survive in the interim, but I'm not really comfortable doing that as I don't feel I'm a charity case, yet, to that degree. Well, Obi, she wanted you behind the counter and that's exactly where you stood your ground. Now, unfortunately, she didn't learn any kind of lesson. Like you said, she just waddled back to her show. Anyways, thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.